and welcome to our latest episode of Tech Talk. I am joined by George Maddox, our solutions architect. Hello, George.
Hello, Leanne.
Hello. So this episode, we are going to be talking about backup because this Sunday, the 31st of March, is World Backup Day. Interesting fact, did you know that 21% of people have never made a backup?
It's deeply concerning, and I wish I didn't know it,
I
Leanne.
know,
But thank
I
you
know.
for introducing that hellish fact into my life.
Another interesting fact is 29% of data loss cases are caused by accident.
That I can believe. That yes, yeah. That's actually less than I would have imagined. So that's good.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, whilst we're on the topic, then let's dive straight in. Then, so just thinking about the significance of World Backup Day for businesses, um, especially in today's digital landscape. I guess can you sort of talk about that significance and what that kind of means to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth with these things, with podcasts and the like. It's worth considering the audience when you answer the question. I assume because we are talking to businesses, that backups are not a pile of hard drives on a desk. Obviously, if they are, then you should come and talk to us almost immediately.
Yep.
But assuming that we are talking to businesses and they have a more robust plan than that, um, I would say that the significance of World Backup Day for businesses that do have a more robust plan in place is just to take 20 minutes, 30 minutes, have a coffee, sit in a quiet corner, right? And just understand that the very best person can have the worst day, and that maybe it's our job to plan for that.
Mm-hmm.
And so don't think about what you have done, and all the sort of backups you've got in place. Think about the cracks, think about the edge cases, think about the thing where you're going, that'll be all right as long as that person never ever does this. It is a little bit like, and I'm sorry, this is stupid analogy, but if anyone's ever worked at height, and you have to wear like a harness, and you have to chain yourself to a metal thing, right? And half of the time when you are working at height, you're
Mm.
barely high enough to damage yourself if you fell off. So it's extremely annoying, but there is a reason why the guidelines are like that, which is because absolutely anybody can have a really, really bad day. And one minute they're going, well, I've never fallen off a roof yet. And the next minute they're falling off a roof.
Yeah.
And you can have all the great plans in the world, but next thing you know, the member of staff who's been rock solid all their life goes, I'm really sorry. I think I've just deleted XYZ. And that's the point where your contingency absolutely has to kick in. And the thing you go, it's all right, because I had that coffee, I had that thought, we got those drives and we moved that material across there.
Yeah. And it can happen very easily.
Yes.
If you're sort of, quickly doing something and just, click of the wrong key and it's
Yeah,
gone, isn't
precisely.
it? So yeah,
Precisely.
precaution is key. I mean, there's a lot of concern at the moment about data decay and lack of proper backup policies in Hollywood. I obviously reading a recent article that was published. Um, is this justified?
So let's address this one head on. It's a bit of a storm in a Twitter cup, this one, right? But there was and we have to be careful, because you get article on Twitter, then people react to that, and then people react to the reacting to that. And
Yeah.
if you start to look closely, maybe no one knows about anything, and I include myself in that, right?
Mm.
However, if you take a step back, the article is by the Hollywood Reporter, I believe, and it essentially suggests that all the media that we've been storing up in hard drives is can potentially just disappear. It suggests that it can kind of data rot, and also that it's been held at the wrong quality, so it will at some point in the future become useless.
Mm.
So let's just address that head on, I think, because it's possible for someone like myself who sells storage, and yourself, Leanne, who markets storage, to get quite offended quite fast, right? The reality of it is that data does not just rot in drives, okay? And yes, drives get old, and yes, drives will fail. But as we were just saying in the first question, any sort of reasonable sized company has got a plan for what happened when those drives get old. It's not like that hard drive that everyone at home bought and it sat there for 14 years and then one day it just doesn't plug in and you go, oh my God, what about that?
Mm.
There are wheels within wheels in data backup, and it's probably important for people to know that that's the case, because there's no reason for them to know, if you didn't work in the industry, just how prescriptive data backup is, just how many rules there are around it, and just how much people's entire jobs are managing, delivering on, and taking care of storage.
Mm.
So the idea that somehow you're going to suddenly plug in the hard drive array and it's everything is gone is not something people need to be concerned about. The second thing, which is not so much this job, but is very much my previous job, is the notion that somehow we've kept all this material in a quality that is inappropriate, that is not suitable for future generations of distribution. And I don't see any evidence of that whatsoever. If anything, we needed to be more careful about the size of stuff that we are storing. As a storage provider, I don't mind, but if anything, we're holding too much and too high a quality of storage for the eventual streaming endpoints. So it was a little bit of pride that made me think we need to set this one right. But also, I think the positive thing from all of this is that what people are really concerned about, I think, is not the hard drives dying or the material rotting. They probably are concerned about that, but I think the real concern underneath it is, as we move away from I physically have my DVD to I go to a streaming service, they're worried that they will lose something because it will never be shown. And of course, the films that have recently been deleted for tax purposes, for example, it's understandable why people are concerned that the media will not be available to them. And to be honest, I can't solve that for you. I can't, I'm not a Universal, I'm not a Warner's, I'm not a Sony, right? I can't make them give you the media. All I can suggest is that if you do have DVDs, if you do have Blu-rays, keep them in good nick, maybe think about backing them up, whatever you think best, right? But if you are to lose access to this, it won't be because of hard drives exploding or the files mysteriously bit rotting. It will be because of something quite different.
Interesting. I mean, there's a legal aspect to this as well, isn't there? The public don't have to rely upon goodwill of the studios, do they?
No, they don't. They absolutely don't. And I have to be very careful because this is a recorded conversation. But shall we say, a friend of mine has seen multiple situations in the past where, for example, maybe material was damaged in transit. Where for potentially supply from one situation to another situation wasn't ideal, potentially where material was sent mislabeled, etc. The major studios are not just firing off we transfer links into the darkness. The major studios are mandating Aspera Signiant connections. We work very closely. We have Signiant built into our products. We work with Aspera as well. They're mandating Aspera, they're mandating Signiant connections, and they're watching the packets as they move across. And that's important as well for people to understand, because people are concerned about access to their media, and I can't fix the rights for people to have access to their favorite film in 10 years, but I can tell you that the studios are not lax about watching this material move back and forth. And if they feel like you haven't moved the material back and forth in an appropriate way, they will come looking for service credits. They will come looking essentially for money for the inconvenience of having resupply assets because you made a mistake. So this is not a trivial thing. This is something that is taken very seriously and in which a lot of regulation applies. That's not to say that there aren't corners of the industry where the regulations haven't penetrated, but it's not that it's the wild, wild west out there. There's a lot of rules and there's a lot of people watching.
So just going back to the importance then of why should we be backing up our data? Why should we be having sort of disaster recovery policies in place and continuity plans? How does Periphery fit into this then? So can you explain how Periphery Solutions addresses these challenges of managing, protecting and storing data whilst
Absolutely.
prioritizing disaster recovery and business continuity?
Sorry, Leanne, jumped on you there, but yes,
That's okay.
absolutely. Obviously, this one's the easy question because I say it every day to various customers. So few things. Let's start with the basics. It's object storage that we sell. Right?
At the core, yeah.
Precisely, object storage, and at a relatively fundamental level, you can scale that up with significant ease, which means that if/when you do fill up drives, adding new drives is pretty straightforward. Obviously, that means that you're not tearing up your IT infrastructure on a quasi-regular basis. It means that replacement drives are relatively straightforward and easy. So at a really fundamental level, assuming that media needs are going to grow, which they are, yeah, the files, as we've just said, there's no problem with quality of the files because the file quality keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So at a relatively fundamental level, you're going to need more storage. And when you add that, you don't want to be thinking about redoing everything from the ground up. So we take that as a fundamental. The next thing is that everything that we do has been designed and enabled to be a user distributable or creatable function. So in the process of creating the storage vaults that we use as the core of our business, the users have the ability to tack on what I would call high-level backup and disaster recovery options, such as replication across geographical sites, such as replications across groups of hardware, and that's on top of standard hardware protections like RAID. So what the specifics of those are don't really matter so much. Anyone who knows IT will know them either as well as or better than I. The point is, these are all things that are enabled at a user level. So if you are in a pinch, if you need to get something set up quickly, there's no reason that the thing you set up quickly on the weekend when IT are at home can be as robust as what you would set up with the team in place. And media and entertainment fundamentally is going towards a more dynamic scenario. That it's a contracting industry. More people will have to do more with less. So the fact that our skill sets the fact that our tools are geared up to be used by just about anyone of any particular skill set, even if they have a really strong media and entertainment background, no IT background, is really the other core fundamental principle that really enables us to do what we do. And again, of course, those features are internode replication on top of RAID backup, interduplication between sites, so that you can have material here, and a whole smorgasbord of other options involving distribution to deep archive in the public cloud and things like that. This is all built into what we do.
And at the moment, there's a huge amount of conversation happening around AI, and obviously how it's changing things as we move forward. What's your take on how all this will sort of impact and affect backing up and, from a security perspective?
Yeah, so at a relatively fundamental level, this is another, again, might be a storm in a Twitter cup, this one, but there is obviously a movie that's just been released whose name I should have remembered. Something about the devil. It's a late night talk show. I forget. Sorry. We'll put it in the comments, I guess. Yeah. Anyway, there's a couple of AI generated images that have been used on the backdrop of it. And obviously, we've just had SAG-AFTRA, the 9 months of striking, 6 months of striking, whatever it was, around the use of AI. So obviously it's a touchstone, it's a touch point, it's all flared up. The reason why AI is kind of fascinating though is because on one hand it's the worst thing ever. On the other hand, of course, it is going to be vital to the way we manage things in the future. And to a certain extent, this is a sort of, on World Backup Day, this is a good case in point, right? On one hand, we don't want to see talented people struggling to get jobs because AI is producing, shall we say, mid-level impersonations of what an artist would do. On the other side of things, our habit of backing up everything and our habit of keeping everything is great as long as we can find everything. And it's increasingly getting to the stage where the size of archive material available to the big studios, look, you'll always be able to find the Fast and the Furious X, right? Yeah. There's enough copies of that in existence. This is the other thing, of course, that I should have really mentioned about the worry of losing files. It's not like the files are only kept with Paramount or Universal or Sony or whoever else. They're also kept with their distributors as well. So it's not like, if there were to be some terrible power cut, and Sony would never be able to turn their engines on again, the copies of material aren't elsewhere. The point is the large material, the popular material, will be spread far and wide, and it's not just disaster recovery proof because of the precautions that we put in place. It's because it's spread all over the place. But the more obscure stuff, the director's cut that fans think is the best, for example, right? The untouched by CGI, the ungraded copy, which has slowly but surely subsumed to being adjusted over the years, potentially by a director who doesn't stop fiddling with their work, for example, right? That material is easier to get lost because it's not being sold. It's not being therefore entered into a production asset manager. It's not production asset, a digital asset manager, a media asset manager, or a sales asset manager, or whatever. It will still exist. It won't get deleted. That's not a thing we have to worry about. People know that it's worth something.
Yeah.
But at a fundamental level, whether or not you can find it, whether or not you can put your fingers on it, whether or not you can grab it and say, here it is, that is the point where you get into archiving. And we're not an industry that is earning more money, and therefore we're going to need help, right? And that help will be through automating AI to take care of stuff that a human being could never really have taken on anyway. Yeah. To cataloging, to reading, to viewing title cards, aggregating that information into at a storage level, which is the way we do it, not into a media asset manager, but actually into the storage itself to enrich the asset. So the reason it's interesting to sort of think and talk about it is that on one hand, yes, AI images robbed an artist of work, potentially, of course. It's interesting that in that article, no one ever observes that the person who was employed to make the image might have saved themselves hours. Anyway, let's not stoke the fires of internet discourse. But my point is, on one hand, AI bad, on the other hand, AI essential.
Yeah.
And so there has to be a nuanced picture from there. And AI is certainly at a administrative storage level is kind of about the only way you can solve a lot of tasks at this point, given viable economic approaches to work, if you like.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it'll certainly free up a lot of time, sort of manually entering metadata, those kind of tasks.
Precisely. Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah.
it helps you focus on the bigger things as well.
Yeah.
So can absolutely see the benefits of AI. And there's a lot of kind of innovative solutions coming out, and obviously looking forward to NAB coming up next month, and the shows even carrying on throughout the rest of the year and into next year. I think it'll still be at the top of the agenda on discussions. So yeah, it's interesting, definitely. Well, thank you for sharing all your insights on backup in celebration for World Backup Day. Of course, I've mentioned NAB, so there's a little teaser in there for our next podcast coming up. It will be NAB focused. And we're obviously looking forward to seeing everybody at the show. Please remember to pop by if you are there. Come and see us. We're on SL 2089. So looking forward to that event. Thanks again for tuning in and listening. Thank you, George, for your time today. Please remember to subscribe, comment, share our podcast, and we'll see you on the next series. Thank you.